Hello my friends and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Today is the daily update of the Ukrainian front. As always, I have two articles, one coming from the Ukrainian side, the other one coming from the Russian side. This is a general update. It's not very detailed, but it tells you in general what's happening on the entire front. So let's start with the Ukrainian article, which comes from Ukrinform. It is from Tuesday, March 7th, 2023. Ukraine's air forces launched 15 strikes on enemy positions, hitting anti-aircraft missile system. All right. Over the past day, the Air Force of the Defense Forces of Ukraine launched 15 strikes on enemy positions as well as one on an anti-aircraft missile system at its firing position. So this is according to March 7, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. The occupiers are focusing their main efforts on conducting offensive operations in Kupiansk, Lyman, Bakhmut, Avdiivka and Shakhtarsk direction. Over the past day, Ukrainian soldiers repelled more than 140 enemy attacks. So all these 5 directions are located. I'm going to go on the Russian map. It's right here in the Luhansk and Donetsk Oblast. This right here, this is where the 5 directions. I can go with starting from Lyman, going to Bakhmut, which is Artemovsk in Russian, and ending in Ugledar or Vuhledar in Ukraine. Here is mostly shelling, no face-to-face encounters. Like here where you have the black bullets. When you have the black bullets, that is face-to-face fighting in the cities. So we're gonna have the Ukrainians start their update by usually starting with telling you what happened here in Chernihiv. The Russians call it Chernigov, then in Sumy, and then they go Kharkov. The Russians call it Kharkov, then Luhansk, Donetsk, Zaporozhye, and then in Kherson Oblast. So let's see what the Ukrainians are saying. Units of the rocket forces and artillery hit an enemy command post, 8 areas of enemy clusters, 2 air defense systems, an anti-aircraft missile system at its firing position, an ammunition depot, and a radar station. Mamma mia, that's a lot. Probably all here, where the blue bullets are. Let's see if we find anything. Let's start with this one. Ukrainian forces shelled civilian infrastructure. Okay. Ukrainian forces shelled civilian. Okay. Ukrainian forces fired 9 shells at a city. Okay. Ukrainian forces fired 12 shells at a village. So nothing from what these guys are saying. Let's see what they do here, because these are the shelling. Ukrainian forces fired 6 shells. The Russians don't tell us anything. Ukrainian forces fired 20 shells at a city. And these are just attempts with drones. Russian air defense shot down a Ukraine drone. Again, drones. What is this? Airplane? Yeah. Russian airspace forces shot down a Ukraine Sukhoi 24 aircraft. Okay, here by Bakhmut. No wonder that is over there, because that's where the fierce fight occurs, right here in Artemovsk, Bakhmut. And Bakhmut, which is Artemovsk by the Russians, Yan Gagin, advisor to the DPR's acting head Denis Pushilin, said that Russian forces now control almost half of the city of Bakhmut. So once that's done, they go to Kramatorsk and Sloviansk. In total, the enemy launched 50 airstrikes and 5 missile attacks. In particular, the enemy used 11 Shahed 136 UAVs, 9 of which were shot down. Very interesting that the Russians already have Iranian drones. I thought they ran out of them. That's why they said in an article, I think it was Ikhnat, said, oh, they didn't use them for about 3 days, so that means they don't have them. Is that the only conclusion you can draw? Yeah, because I'm dumb. Good job, Ikhnat. I think it was Ikhnat. 9 of which were shot down. Ukrainian, I covered that about 3 days ago or so. And I said, I'm pretty sure you're gonna see them again. The drones. Ukrainian defenders also downed an enemy Sukhoi 25 aircraft and 8 other drones of various types in the past day. I thought the Russians did something right here. Sukhoi 24. Okay. In addition, the occupiers fired 59 multiple launch rocket systems, in particular at populated areas. It is noted that the threat of further missile strikes throughout the territory of Ukraine remains high. Now, in the Volyn, Polisia, and Siversk and Slobozhanskaya directions, the formation of invaders' offensive groups were not recorded. During the day, the enemy shelled the areas of Chernihiv region, then Sumy region, and then Kharkiv region. So the Russians, according to the Ukrainians, bombarded, shelled these three, 1, 2, 3 oblasts. Here, the only thing that I see in Kharkiv. These are what the Russians, let's say what the Russians say here. Forces of Zapad group hit Ukraine armed forces units during using artillery strikes. What's this? The same thing, airstrikes. This artillery strikes. So these artillery strikes in this area in Kharkiv. Nothing in the other ones, in Sumy or Chernihiv, according to the Russians. But instead, it seems like the Ukrainians hit Belgorod. Belgorod governor said that Ukraine armed forces shelled the center of the village. The strike damaged 3 private houses and grocery store. There were no casualties. Oh, is that a civilian infrastructure too? Oh, the Russians must be lying because they're Russians, right? In the Kupiansk and Lyman direction, the enemy is trying to break through the defenses of Ukrainian troops. So that's in the north of Kharkiv region, and all that is in this area right here. Russian troops conducted unsuccessful offensive actions in the directions of, and they give you 3 settlements. Sometimes the Ukrainian names do not coincide with the Russian names because the Russians sometimes go by the Soviet name, the Ukrainian change it into Ukrainian name. So even if I would read some of this, doesn't really, you can't really find them on the map. Like as I said, you got Chernigov versus Chernihiv, Kharkiv, Artemovsk versus Bakhmut. Okay, find that one. So all this is in Donetsk and in Luhansk. Now, so the 3, Kharkiv, Luhansk, Donetsk, so all this occurs in this area right here. And now the Ukrainians are going to start talking about this area down here, so a little bit south. In Bakhmut, into the Bakhmut direction, the enemy, despite significant losses, continues to storm the city of Bakhmut and its surroundings. I read for you, the Russians say that they fight, almost half of the city is now controlled by the Russians, according to the Russians. And this guy said that they continue to storm the city of Bakhmut and its surroundings. Over the past day, the enemy launched 37 attacks. And then it gives you near the village of Dubovo-Vasilivka alone. Russian forces also conducted offensive operations in the areas of for here, but had no success. Artillery and mortar attacks were recorded in the areas of 1, 2, 3, 4, Bakhmut, all this in the vicinity of Bakhmut. In the Avdiivka and Shakhtarsk direction, so that is lower here, they call it, Russians are calling it Avdiivka. Fighting is taking place on the city outskirts. Russian forces destroyed an ammunition depot of the Ukrainian Armed Forces 110th Separate Mechanized Brigade, and this is going to be surrounded as well right here. And then is Marinka, and then is Vuhledar or Ugledar. Let's see what happens there. Fighting is taking place on the city's outskirts. Forces of the Vostok group hit Ukrainian armed forces using units using artillery strikes. And Marinka, let's say Marinka. Fighting is taking place in the western part of the city. All right, that's where they, right here, Avdiivka direction and Shakhtarsk. The occupiers carried out unsuccessful offensive operations in the directions of and Donetsk. And you have Marinka here as well in Donetsk region, in particular Avdiivka we have here, and Vuhledar I have here, came under enemy fire. in the Zaporozhye and Kherson directions, which are the ones in the south. Right, this is Zaporozhye, this is Kherson, so on a bigger map, Zaporozhye, Kherson. Here the Ukrainians are bombarding, as I mentioned before, and the Russians return the favor. It seems like, yeah, I see over there a plane. Let's see, the Russians destroyed one again. According to the Russians, Ukrainian forces fired 18 shells at a village using barrel artillery. Russian aerospace forces shot down a Ukrainian Sukhoi 25 aircraft. The Ukrainians did not report that, but the Russians did not report what the Ukrainians said, that they destroyed a Sukhoi 25. That's how it is. In the Zaporozhye and Kherson directions, the enemy is holding the defense. Russian forces shelled the Avdiivka and Donetsk region, and then some other here in Zaporozhye region and in the Kherson region. So it's just, not just, but it's they exchange fire in that area. It's no troops advancing either side. And that's over there is the Dnieper River, which actually divides them. It keeps them, the forces separate. Not much development except Bakhmut, which in Bakhmut the Russians claim they almost encircled the city. The Ukrainians made a decision to hold the city, not to withdraw now, because yesterday they were withdrawing, fighting withdrawal, and now is no more fighting a withdrawal. Now is standing over there and fighting the Russians off. As I said, these two articles, this is the Ukraine, this is the Russians. There's not really overlap over there on what one side says and what the other side says. But as a general information, you can complete the picture by using both sides. All sides lie, that's for sure. But at least they give you a an idea that, hey, I mean, if this is what they report, that's what the whole world should get. Because I don't think they get the information from where. All the information that I give you here is coming from the Ukrainian Minister of Defense and from the Russian Minister of Defense. So these are official statements. That article comes from the, how do you call it? It's called the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine. So that's the official position of the Ukrainian Armed Forces, and the other one comes from the Ministry of Russian Defense Ministry of Defense. So these are both, as I said, official data and update. So that's what we have. I'm pretty sure there are some more details that you can find, but I don't like to get into that too much. I like the general maneuvering. If a location is a hot spot like it is in Bakhmut, I like to cover that because that could be strategically important, which it is. But other than that, if it's nothing extraordinary, just the general dynamics of the front, that's what I like to look at. In macro, not micro. As long as, unless it's something very, very important and determines the outcome of a certain kind of strategic maneuver. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.